Hi everyone, this is Melissa Vasquez. In my presentation comparing apples to oranges, I will be discussing a few properties of the public sector versus the private sector. Um, so getting right on it, are we similar in the way we conduct business or are we starkly different from private function and operation? And what can we conclude from these differences and similarities? For this presentation, I will focus on food. On the public side, FDA and the California Department of Public Health regulates the production of safe food for the manufacturing industry. The manufacturing industry produces safe and high quality products for human consumption. In this diagram, we see that based on a few criteria, government and industry conduct business very different from one another, for the exception of one small area, the mission and standard operating procedures. So what does this mean? Well, both strive to provide the best service or product to the client, and they're interested in food safety. They're also interested in having consistent procedures in conducting business. This kind of relationship is most apparent in Frederick Taylor's and Weber's writing of having specific rules and descriptions of procedures. We see this in standard operating procedures that are followed in both manufacturing and regulatory agencies. However, when it comes to supervision, employees, and operation, we find that they are very different from one another. For instance, for supervision, we see influences of Mary Parker Foley for the public sector or CDPH in this case, regarding the encouraged open communication between employees and management. While on the other side, interestingly enough, we see more of Weber's theory of communicating from the top down, or in other words, receiving orders from the top. The state takes a theory Y approach described by Douglas McGregor, while when management actually trusts that the employee will take the responsibility in order to go through and conduct their regular duties. On the other hand, industry has more of a theory X approach, where human nature is not to want to work, and therefore micromanagement is needed for the employees. When we get to the employee, it is pretty common to see employees that have a long tenure for the state. And on the other hand, we have a pretty high turnover rate for the industry. Why? Well, a report made by the Work Institute, a consulting agency for the industry, stated that employees pay $600 billion in costs associated with turnovers. Furthermore, it states that the reasons why employees leave, it relates to the lack of career development opportunities and inability to balance work life, as well as poor management. All these concepts are discussed in McGregor's theory of maximizing utilization of employees based on their natural needs for self-growth. Finally, I'd like to briefly touch on operation. Industry, as we all know, is profit-driven. This results in maximizing product output with minimal resources. The goals of the organization trumps everything, and efficiency is at its maximum. All these concepts are in line with Taylor's writing. On the other hand, we have quality-driven work with the state. However, completing the workload in the most efficient manner is sometimes impossible due to the scrutiny of our work. Our work is always being watched by someone. As Appleby mentions in his essay, government is different. Red tape is a result of this scrutiny, and it hinders the efficiency. However, this is needed in order to be as transparent to our public as much as possible. So in conclusion, is this good? Well, I think overall we need to have a difference between public and private sectors. Why? Because we have a different group which we cater to. However, borrowing ideas from the private sector in order to improve efficiency is something that we should always strive for. Why? The private sector tends to be very dynamic, and it is able to change on a day-to-day basis based on what it is that it's receiving as a result, or evaluations, or whatever it might be that helps it conduct better business. Um, and that is something that as the private industry, as a public, we need to strive for. This ends my presentation. If you have any questions or comments, or any areas where I can improve, please don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you.